If you don't know, Justin, if you're watching over on Facebook, I see some of you are. Head over to the YouTube channel, Vegan FTA. You'll see that we did an interview with Justin on effective vegan outreach, on things that vegans don't really talk about. It was 45 minutes of just like, this guy is an information tank. He is just, he's just really insightful. He's fantastic. He's one of my favorite activists. And he's made this video called Woke Student Has a Change of Heart, and it might be important to read the context. For context, his friend had been to our Elwood's dog meat table a few days before, told him about it, and brought him to have a chat. For anyone who doesn't know, Elwood's dog meat is this setup where they're selling the dog flesh and seeing how the public reacts to wonderful, wonderful dog flesh. When he says is this about dog meat? I'd eat a dog. He's being trolly and trying to get a rise out of me. He's still being a little trolly when he says they go to the bacon factory, but pretty soon after he becomes more sober and good faith. Overall, an awesome conversation, and it was really great talking to both of them, as by the end they were incredibly open and honest. So yeah, let's watch it. I'm going to see if I can bring it a bit larger.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
I eat a dog. If I kicked a dog, that would be up. But if I kicked a rock, that's probably fine. Or if I kicked a toaster. Yeah, pesky toasters. Yeah.
I do know somewhere that goes
pesky toasters.
100 years ago, if I was like eating the shit out of.
You guys want to answer questions for a cookie?
Animal rights questions.
They are about that, yeah.
Dog meat.
Huh?
I eat a dog.
This is not about dog meat. Were you here the other day?
Yeah, I was.
And I'll direct these to you then. What do you think about animal abuse and people who abuse animals?
I didn't get that question.
It's a different question.
This question can seem kind of silly and obvious, but I'm establishing a very basic values up from what people, when people get defensive, they have a habit of denying very basic values later. And that's very true. Like, you want to, like, when you're talking about other issues, people are so quick to be like, oh no, all beings are deserving of their rights. It's so messed up when someone like kicks a dog, for example. But just to make sure at the start, it's a really good thing to just see if they are someone with some compassion.
In my opinion, like, the issue is, I'll exchange the word silly for like simple and obvious. The entire issue of veganism is so simple. It's so simple. It actually is so simple.
Painfully simple. It's like you don't even have to change who you are to be a vegan. Like my principles on animals have always been the same since I was little, that they are individuals, they have personalities, you shouldn't hurt them. It was just my actions didn't align with that. So that needed to change. I didn't have to change. But yeah.
Did you get some like philosophical one?
Well, that is a philosophical one, I guess. It's just an easy one.
Animal abuse, bad.
Okay.
Abuse animals, bad.
Okay, so we've established that. Animal abuse, bad. People who abuse them, bad.
Yeah. He said it in such a patronizing way, but we'll soon find out he doesn't think it's that bad. That's what's so funny. Bad. Animal abuse, bad.
Some examples?
Sure. When I saw a person kick a dog.
Kicking a dog's a good example. Anything else that you think would qualify?
I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about like CAFOs, for example, or like the chickens in like very small spaces, or like different types of farming practices. So.
I usually don't touch on that specific thing, though.
Did you want to say something?
For the UK people, like, CAFOs is like factory farm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think abuse is bad? Like, why is it bad to abuse an animal?
Because if I abuse him, he'll be sad. He has feelings.
Yeah.
And if I think something has feelings, that's not morally correct in my opinion.
Right. So, like, if I kicked a dog, that would be up. But if I kicked a rock, that's probably fine. Or if I kicked a toaster. Yeah, I know. There's pesky toasters. Okay. So then, I guess, do you think you fund any industries that directly contribute to animal abuse?
I'm sure, like, the logging industry or maybe the cruise line industry.
They may, yeah. They may in very indirect ways, but I would say the most direct one is probably...
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like they knew before. It's like, yeah, okay.
I've never heard those suggestions before. Cruise line
logging.
and logging.
logging and cruise lines.
I've
Yeah.
never heard those suggestions before, man.
Hello,
Fascinating.
everyone in the chat, by the way. Thank you so much for being here. If you are here, just leave a comment so we know that you're here and okay and you're watching and everything's coming through and we're not just speaking to a wall. So it's fantastic that comments are there, because that would be really awkward if I hadn't clicked live.
Yeah.
I think I'd cry. I think I'd actually cry. Okay.
Milk, eggs, those sorts of things. Yeah. Do you eat cows, pigs, chickens, eggs? All of them, some of them?
I eat the wide spectrum.
The whole shebang. Okay.
Are you vegan?
I'm vegan, yeah. Yeah. Let's say you do eat pigs. So do you know anything about like what happens to pigs? Like we have
It's so funny. As a side note, like debug your brain, Justin. Like I don't know if you noticed, but he's hench. He's got some big arms. It's just like hilarious to me when like vegans go out and they're like, yeah, I'm vegan, and they're like the biggest guy in the room, and they're just like, yeah, I'm vegan, with their shoulders out like this. Yep, I am vegan.
It's good, but it like shuts that down straight away. At least he's twice the size of these guys. Like,
oh, guys, fantastic.
That's funny.
You go from a baby pig to on your plate. Do you know like anything about that process? Yeah.
I do know somewhere they go to the bacon factory.
They do go there at some point, yes. So so there's a lot of interesting things people don't know. So like when pigs are babies, we'll actually like slice off their tails and we'll like cut out their teeth. And do you know why we do that for pigs? So because we keep them in such tight conditions, they get really distressed, and they'll actually cannibalize each other if we don't do that. So we actually do it as a preventative kindness. Yeah. Something else we do that people don't realize is we actually will, this sounds kind of gross, so I apologize, but we'll slice 2 slices in their scrotum, and then we'll actually rip their testicles out. Like we literally rip them while the pig is fully conscious with no painkillers. And do you know why we would do that to the male?
We talked about this. I interviewed Justin for Vegan FTA, and we talked about the importance of bringing up this point, because we take so much from animals. We take everything to the point where we tell them that when they can breed. We even do that process for them. And yeah, ripping. Like I don't have testicles, and I can feel that when it's such a visceral.
It's horrendous.
Like I'm just here like every time it's brought up, or when I mention it, I'm there like, oh god. And we do that to animals, for we do that for the taste, so that the taste doesn't spoil. Because if they have their testicles, it can have that effect. But also, so they don't breed with each other.
This is it, man. It's like, in order to turn these like animals into commodities, we have to just do like insanely horrible, unnatural things, but everyone will just claim that it's the most natural thing, right? It's so weird, man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Pigs?
I can't hazard a guess either. Why is that?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons. One is sexual exploitation is just part of every industry. Of pigs, yeah, because like the pigs don't get to decide when they reproduce. We tell them when to reproduce, right? We want very specific genes from very specific pigs, so they can't be reproducing.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
I thought you meant something different.
Well, that also happens. We basically, for lack of a better word, essentially jerk off a pig, get semen from them, and then shoot it into a female pig's vagina. Like a human does that. And so that sexual exploitation is just part of any sort of animal flesh that we would eat, which most people don't know, and it's pretty up.
I know, because like the usual argument is that, under the gatherings, we're used to like, is this really natural?
Yeah.
So what we're doing now. No, I mean, like back.
The natural thing is weird anyway. Just because something's natural, it doesn't mean that it's good. Like diseases are natural, cancer is natural. Like these things are natural. Killing each other is natural. Like literally, we talk about killing being natural, and it's like as soon as a human kills another human, why would they do that? That's so evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The reality of it is like we can't just wait around for them to like mate and create the babies that, because it's the babies that we kill and eat. That's why we kill animals like really, really, really young, because we force mothers and fathers to reproduce as quickly as possible, and then we kill the babies as soon as possible, as soon as they're adequate for whatever product we see fit. Can't just wait around for animals to mate, and then it's like people just don't know anything about the industries, man. They don't know anything about it.
No,
Fascinates me.
Basically, it's all systematic, all in a certain way to maximize profits. But then you talk about maximizing profits with sentient beings, so their needs end up completely going out of the window.
And to meet demand as well, demand, for sure.
Yeah, it's meeting the demand. So literally, if you're watching this and you consume products that contain animals in their secretions, it's what you're paying for. It's entailed in the process. So,
like if you're like hunting back in the day, that was like jerk off a pig.
And also it makes the pig's flesh taste worse for some reason whenever they have testicles. So we're also removing their testicles so that they taste better for us. And then do you know how pigs are typically killed?
No, I assume they're slaughtered like most other. How are they killed?
They're actually put into gas chambers. They're typically
I read a book about it, about how they compare the Holocaust.
Oh, there is definitely that comparison definitely is on board. Basically, it's high concentration CO2 gas is pumped in. It basically forms acidic compounds with all their wet tissues. So if you ever like drank a soda and like it got like a little burny in your throat, imagine that, but like much, much, much worse. And then you suffocate and then die. And that's sort of how most pigs are killed, like 80 to 90% of them. So, yeah. Have you ever thought about that before? Or?
I eat bacon.
How do you feel when you hear that, though?
I think I assume it's most rational human beings.
It's most what?
Rational human beings feel. I probably try to disassociate from that. So that's actually terrible.
Yeah. As soon as these things are explained, someone who's not trolling or isn't like completely disconnected is going to look at that and be like, that's actually so messed up. You'd be a bit worried if someone didn't think that was messed up.
Yeah. Even just the simple, it's not possible. Like, people do bring this up, but it isn't possible to meet demand and avoid these horrible practices. But even if it didn't entail all of that, and it was just the killing them part that was the bad thing, which is what most people think, by the way. It's a valid point, because everyone's like, oh, they just live a life and then we just kill them, but at least they get to live a life. It's like, even if that was true, man, like, taking their life from them for an unnecessary reason, it's a horrible thing to do, man.
This shows us how disconnected people are when you look at like someone being killed and that's not enough.
And literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. And so that's it's kind of what we're out here trying to communicate. But everything I just mentioned are sort of what I would call like symptoms, right? They're symptoms, but of a deeper disease or a deeper root cause. And that root cause is actually something that's been with humans for like a really long time. What do you think that root cause is that I'm referring to? Or maybe you think there's another root cause?
The root cause of like killings?
Yeah, like why are we able to do that to them? What makes it possible psychologically for us to do all these horrible things to those animals?
Because there's someone else doing it.
Well, that's one thing, for sure.
We don't see them as like you wouldn't do this to a human. I assume most people, we don't see them as like base living creatures. We don't see them feelings.
Yeah, I think that's it. The way I put it is that we've commodified them, so we see them as something, not someone. We see them; they're here for us, not just with us. Right? And I would say they are just here with us. They're not here for us. They are someone. They're not something. And the reason I think that's so important is because if you think all throughout history, right? All throughout history, all over the world, there's always been times when we've said, hey, that someone is a something. And every time we do that, those someones get fucked.
Nice.
Yeah, he really hits home with that. Like, we were talking about that in the interview as well. Like,
he bossed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
7 steps to tyranny or whatever, or to dictatorship. No?
Yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is not just say, hey, what happens is really bad. I'm trying to get people to question their own psychology.
Yeah,
And
like,
this,
how can I justify this?
yeah,
Especially stuff like that.
yeah,
Got something to
Yeah.
add to it.
I think maybe
Yeah.
I think people a lot of people believe that in order for us to exist, like we have to exist on top of someone else, like we have to exist at someone else's expense. But it's actually like it's fascinating, but also just soul destroying that actually isn't true for us. That we can totally exist without without
Yeah.
oppressing someone else.
Yeah, we choose
Um,
to.
Yeah, there's no reason that we would need to do this to animals whatsoever, and that's just what makes it so horrible. Eh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
you should answer a question as I have a moral crisis. I think yes.
I'm having a moral crisis. Oh wow.
Good.
Same questions. They're like similar questions.
Yeah.
And I think like my conclusion was, I mean, obviously there's a disconnect between, I guess, what I would morally support versus like what I actually do.
yes,
And I just think for me, like I'm able to rationalize it because I don't see it happening, and it's like happening away from me, and like
Yeah.
I'm not forced to think about it until like groups like you come and talk about it, which
Yeah.
definitely there's a problem there. But then I guess
Bro,
it
you
comes
just had a
to
pulled pork sandwich.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like even after
way to call him
yesterday-
out.
Yeah, no, like that's
Yeah.
like I know that there are problems there, but still,
That
it's
big balls were never there.
I like
They were removed.
ignore it just like so many people do. And I mean, I guess it comes down
He couldn't
to
even jerk himself off.
goddamn.
That's right.
He had to be jerked off.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't. You're right.
You good?
Is there any sort of sustainable like brands you know of? Wise or-
No, I mean, like the thing is these things are all endemic to the industry. You know what I mean? So especially
So like when you hear grass fed or you hear like free range, that's just like, is that
It's-
buzzword?
it's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, like greenwashing for the environment, we call this humane washing in the animal agriculture industry. It's all just,
So
it's spin.
It's all the same.
I still don't see what any of it had to do with sustainability of any of what you mentioned, but fair enough.
No, yeah.
Any moral way you think you eat?
Probably not.
Unless you like freaking took out a spear and like,
Yeah,
and even then it was still.
right. Because would you take out a spear and just kill a dog on the street? You're a human, yeah.
Regardless of what
Yeah.
you eat, like something is going to die. Something is going to experience death
Someone.
for
Yeah.
you to get that. And like when you think about
Are
that,
we going vegan?
it sucks. No, that's the thing. Like I don't externalize it.
So it sounds like you have like a value, right? You have a value here, and then but your actions aren't aligning with those values, right? What do we call someone whose actions don't align with their
I
values?
guess it's
Cognitive dissonance.
And
He gets everyone to say for him the things that as well, which is really powerful. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's got to be a lot more powerful than going, "You're a hypocrite."
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
yeah, there you go. There you go. What do you think would be stopping you though? So like what I guess let's get really granular, right? You walk into the store and you see pig flesh there, chopped up pig body parts, right? And you say, okay, I can grab these chopped up pig body parts, or I can grab tofu or lentils or beans, or I can even grab like the new analogs like the vegan chicken nuggets, you know. Why do you still go for the chopped up body parts of the pig rather than the vegan sausage or the lentils or the beans? What do you think's stopping you?
I say two things. One of them more justifiable than the other. It's like justifiable, I say, but like just it's how I've grown up. Like or I guess how my family has grown up. Like my
Price,
grandfather.
familiarity, nutrition.
Mhm.
What?
Familiarity, that's how you grown up.
Yeah,
Price,
yes.
meat is usually cheaper. Nutrition probably has the best macros out of all those
No.
things.
They're
That's honestly why.
So yeah, a lot of people think that actually. So price-wise, they've done studies, particularly in rich countries. In some lower economic countries, it is true that meat can be cheaper, but in places like here, like in a rich country, vegan protein, meat is expensive. If you want to get like, especially dried beans, canned beans are super cheap. Dried beans are obscenely cheap.
Like the Lancet report says 32% cheaper in places like the US.
If you cook like fresh lentils, you make hummuses, dal, chana masala. A lot of like vegan dishes and Mediterranean dishes are pretty much already vegan and with like good protein sources. Even tofu isn't really cheap or isn't really more expensive than most meat. Familiarity, I definitely agree. Familiarity is tough. Like kind of culture,
it's hard
like
to
yeah.
switch from that mindset.
For sure. I kind of think of like, when I hear that, I think of like my grandparents and stuff, because they were familiar with a certain way of life and they say certain things and think certain things about people.
That's
because
what I mean.
that was like
This
familiar when,
terrible.
yeah.
Because like I guess 300 years ago, if I was like beating the shit out of a slave, and I was like, yeah, this is familiar to me. This is exactly,
Exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And then nutrition-wise, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, you can be nutritious.
It's probably
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah. I've been vegan for 4 years. I'm like, I'm
Wow.
stronger than most of my friends. So.
Wow.
You got the Latin flex.
Only 4 years though. I can't believe that.
Only 4 years, and he's this like insightful. It's amazing. Yeah.
What's that?
What's the question?
Oh, the question is, what do you think about animal abuse and about people who abuse animals? Oh shit!
They should be in jail. It is always they should be in jail. But what about the slaughterhouse workers, like, and the farmers, the animal farmers, like, are they?
It's fascinating because you would get jailed if you did what these guys. I'm not attacking the workers. It's they're definitely in unfortunate situations. What I'm saying is, like, if you did what they do outside the slaughterhouse, you would get arrested and jailed. You would.
Absolutely.
That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about me tripping over that chair? You think they should be in jail? You said, and why is that? What's like wrong with abusing
I'm
animals?
totally messing with you. I'm with ASAP.
Oh, you're with ASAP?
Yeah, I've also been vegan for 4 years. I just wanted a cookie. I'm going to an oral exam. Thank you for the cookie.
Awesome. Great.
If you were just like
Oh,
self-flagellating.
hey. Yes, you got to answer questions first, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do you think about animal abuse and people that abuse animals?
I've been vegan for 7 years.
All right, right on.
No, I'm actually involved with ASAP a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, I talked to Faraz.
yeah. What's up, guys?
If you want to learn more about ASAP, then just go on Debug Your Brains channel. It's like a university thing. It's cool. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. So
Those people-
I was trying to like lead up to something. So I guess for me, over the last couple of years, I guess like succumb to maybe more of a pessimistic worldview, where not necessarily like in relation to food, but in the past I've had like stronger moral stances. It was like more and more often there was no gain from that outside of like how I felt about myself, or like pursuing like a moral, what I consider a moral course.
Yeah.
And just like more and more I would see like other people gaining advantages for not like doing things I would consider moral.
Yeah.
And like in terms of tangible results, like my, I guess, morality in certain things was kind of a disadvantage. So I was just wondering how you would.
Justin's being patient here because I am actually like not able to follow what this guy is saying.
Seems like he was talking about how like he used to just have like a stronger standard for his own morality, but then realized that like no one else did, or that he wasn't like he could see other people benefiting from having a less strong standard than what he had.
So he just kind of gave up.
Sounds like that's what he was saying, yeah.
Right.
Like or not justify it, but how you would connect that to like an organization like this, where it might be easier to get meat, like both culturally and financially in some cases, and like how you would like justify making that step away from it if you have no, I guess, moral drive to, or if it requires that moral drive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some level it is going to require that moral drive. It's going to require you to, at least to some degree, like follow the golden rule or step into the victim's perspective. You know, like if you were the victim, for instance, like how quickly would you want you to stop? You know what I mean? Immediately. You know, another thing you can think about too is like, okay, maybe it's a little hard for me to go to this event because there's less options, or maybe it's slightly harder for me to find this in the grocery store. But the question I would ask myself is it harder for me to like take a couple extra steps or maybe spend like a little bit more in the grocery store? Or is it harder for the pig to get their testicles ripped out and be thrown in a gas chamber? You know, and so that's kind of where I would go with it. But I'll tell you, like, there's a break-in period, but after the break-in period, it's like, not like I don't think about, unless I'm like out here like chatting with people, I don't think about really being vegan.
No.
You know, I have the foods that I eat. Yeah, I just have the foods that I eat. You go to the
like I eat so much vegan ham in a day. It's really like for it's really high protein, so I'm like, lovely. And I'm just eating it, and I'm just being like a meaty boy, but
Yeah,
a
yeah.
vegan one, and it's just like you don't even need to like. Obviously, our jobs mean that we think about it like a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just going
Yeah.
about life, you're not thinking about it. You're picking your stuff up in the supermarket that you're used to getting.
Mm-hmm.
You've changed that once upon a time, like for me 10 years ago, and that's it.
Yeah, the most complex moment as far as having to think about it that I had recently was when I needed to replace my shoes. And I thought the brand that I loved, there was a brand that I really liked the shoes, and they had like really good sustainability credentials and all that. So I was really into them. But I found out like the second time I went to buy shoes from them that I thought they were an all vegan brand, and it turned out they weren't. And so I had to like figure out which of their shoes were vegan and which weren't and all that. And that's the only time I can think of recently where I was really had to think about it, man. It seems like that guy, the long-haired guy, is like just not like he has thought about the stories that Justin's told, but it just doesn't seem like he's like really thought about the animals yet as the victim, right? I often wonder if like it's just a struggle without the visual of it as well, like to be able to just really show them and really connect them to the victim. Like some people do an amazing job. Justin's doing an amazing job just with words, but wonder if he'd been even further impacted, right, if he just could see it. But
some people just really benefit from the visual and cannot really like imagine scenarios like that. So yeah, the visual really does help.
yeah,
If you have it handy, it's a good thing to have. Like when I was outreaching to this man, I'd recently been to a farrowing crate facility. So you pulled it up and it was just to show, okay, this literally, someone you can speak to right now has been in there. This is like right in front of you now. And, that can be very powerful. But yeah, Justin's explanation ability is really, really good.
Yeah, he was painting a picture for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A horrible picture of that.
Same 5 to 10 restaurants all the time anyway. And so I just have like the 5 to 10 restaurants that I like. I go to them. I go to the grocery store. I get mostly the same foods, Most people eat the same foods most of the time. And with like a little bit, like 20%, like I'll throw something new in there. So most of what people do is habit. Really. And so as soon as you have that new habit, it's not like this extra cognitive overhead that you have. You know what I mean? It's just building that habit up to begin with. But if you want selfish reasons, you're saying, if I don't have that moral compass, right? First off, it's probably going to be healthier. You can eat a totally trash vegan diet, but for the most part, it's going to be healthier because you're going to be getting more fiber. You're going to be getting like more things like polyphenols, but you're probably going to be getting a lot less saturated fat. Which is something that can lead to like heart disease and stuff. I know you guys are young, so saturated fat is probably not, you're not like, oh, saturated fat, my heart. But it's also really good for the environment. Animal agriculture is like one of the worst things for the environment. Even if we were to reduce GHG emissions from like every other sector, if we kept animal ag at like current production levels, we still would cross the 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2100. So like without a drastic reduction in animal ag, we still don't meet our climate goals by end of century. Of course,
so that's yet another reason we've gone today through the antibiotic resistance. We've gone through zoonotic diseases. Is it a very intelligent thing to be doing something so environmentally devastating on such a large scale?
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is the planet we live on. We're just wrecking it.
I think I understand now. Like when that guy said, like, how do you do that though if you just don't have the moral drive? I was just thinking, like, that's all Justin's been talking about up until now. But I think it was I think he's standing there saying he doesn't have I just don't think he feels morally compelled.
Yeah. He's hearing all of this and it's just probably like not hitting any nerve. And he's like, well, that is terrible. I can hear it. It's terrible. But like, how do you push me to actually like go and do it? Like, it's like he's begging for someone to help him make the right decision.
You guys are young, like I'm a little older, so maybe I'll be dead by the time it starts like really hitting, but like you guys don't want melty roads and like, rising sea levels and stuff. It also contributes to that. I bring those up less because I think you brought up like the slavery example. And like, I think of it this way. If I was in the 1800s talking about slavery, right, I could say something like, hey guys, look, there were some studies done and it turns out if you give up your slaves, you're actually going to be out in the field more. You're going to be getting more vitamin D. You're going to be more active. And so you'll actually be a lot healthier if you get rid of your slaves, you know? And I could say that, and maybe that'll be persuasive, but to me, there's something about it that just feels so icky. It's like, no, the thing that's the problem is that there's something that we're treating them as something, not someone. The problem isn't like, oh, you could be a little healthier if you got out and, you know, mowed the field or whatever.
Exactly.
And so I do throw those points out there because they are important to know, but I do try to.
Sounds like Justin's vegan for the animals.
Yeah.
FTA.
That was legendary of him to actually go there, though. Like, to actually go, do you know what? Like, these are big issues. I'll explain a few things. And then to go there and say what he said afterwards, that was legendary, man.
To really hit home just how important it is.
To keep focusing it on the animals themselves as individuals. Yeah. Yeah. If I had like a source for you that could like help you guys go vegan, would you be interested?
Why not?
Yeah. Do you have a phone on you? Yeah, there's those two things. So How to Stop Paying for It is a 22-day challenge. The top video, What We Do to Animals, that's a 2-hour.
The one that they had on the computer yesterday?
It is.
Yeah.
That's a 2-hour movie. No one watches that 2-hour movie. I can't watch the 2-hour movie. However, this is what I would say. If you are going to continue to pay for the exploitation for those body parts,
should
right?
watch it.
I think there is at least some ethical pressure to just look at what you're doing. Try to watch it for 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. And understand, like, because we're heady right now. We're philosophical and like abstract, but look and see concretely what is actually happening here.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for being open-minded. Thanks for chat.
Yeah, because you can say, oh, I'm not morally compelled or anything when you have a discussion about it. But if you actually went to a slaughterhouse, if you actually saw the animals before they were like gassed, if you went into farms and saw all of these individuals and what they're going through, or connected with ones who had been saved at a sanctuary, you would, in many cases, be compelled to stop what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't think he realizes quite how awful it is. Even just like witnessing the simple thing, right? See, the thing that everybody, like we said earlier, the thing that nobody thinks is bad, like just the killing them bit, right? Is if that was the only bad bit, I think like if you people obviously people have been really, really protected from that footage. I think if they watch that, like just to see that the victim go through that, the guy needs to see it for real. Yeah.